Today I'm going to be talking about the easiest ways I have made $100 or less. And the idea here is that I've tried a lot of different money making methods, and there have been some ways where I've made money very quickly, very easily, and for less than 5, 10, 20 minutes of work, I've made 20, 30, 40, $50. So how is that done? And let's just talk about the whole general philosophy around this. Now this topic bloomed in my head because I was talking to someone the other day, and he was uh, talking about a memory about how he basically found uh, money on the floor because this guy at this party was basically showing off how rich he was by throwing money into the air. And I think he made like $100 or $20 or something just picking that up. And it sparked the conversation and topic of easiest money they've ever made, easiest $100 you've ever made. So before I get into these tips, I do have to emphasize the general philosophy, which is that usually the ones that you're going to see are not things that really are truly scalable and truly something that you can do on a continual basis. So oftentimes it's best to invest in long-term skill sets that can generate this on a more consistent level. We're talking businesses, we're talking actual skill sets that people employ you for long periods of time on. So without further ado, let's get into some of these fun things. So one of the ways I've made money easiest is basically user testing. User testing is basically a whole division of website development, website user experience, and it's a growing field. But websites, companies, organizations, they want to test and see if their website is usable, understandable, intuitive, or if it's frustrating and confusing for visitors. So there's whole departments and people employed around this, and they employ tools like usertesting.com, winter.com, and these tools hire individuals, everyday people, sometimes business executives, whoever you're trying to target with your organization, to just basically run through a product, run through a website, and give their honest thoughts and opinions on this. And I've tried out some of these tools. I know there's others I haven't tried, but sometimes it's easy money, especially if you fit a specific niche that they're looking for, like 20 to 40-year-old men who earn a certain amount and are in this industry and have this job title. You get a good payout for sometimes 10 minutes of work. 10 minutes of work just giving your first impressions on this website, what's confusing, what's frustrating about it, and you sometimes get paid 20 to 40 bucks for that. So very easy money, but oftentimes inconsistent and very dependent on what you have to offer in your demographic. So these things don't always come to you. Sometimes you have to apply for them, or you get on a waiting list, and they'll email you once in a blue moon when they have a user test that fits your profile. And this may not happen more than once or twice a month. Um, so that's one of those things, and a great example of how uh, that philosophy of kind of investing more matters. Now, the second one, I once again have to emphasize, I've tried out a bunch of stuff. I've tried out things where you do surveys, where you uh, complete apps or download and play video game apps, and they'll give you points which you can redeem for gift cards. I've tried out receipt purchases, where you scan all your receipts, they take it for consumer data, and then they pay you a payout depending on how many receipts you scan. So with all that being said, a lot of those things turns out, the time spent doesn't always equate to the money that came out of it. Another thing I tried that was decent income for the time you put in was Instacart during the pandemic. There was a surge of demand for virtual or done for you shopping at grocery stores. So I tried it out briefly. I may have only done like 5 to 10 trips for different people. But at the time, I think the payout was pretty good. If you got a good person who was living nearby and wanted was willing to pay for things that were easy to get. You could choose a shopping option that could get you $20 for maybe 30, 45 minutes of shopping and driving time. Obviously, that averages out, and sometimes the trips take longer, the lines are longer, the driving is longer, and you have to pay for gas and the electric bill because Instacart drains your phone very quickly. And now, with the pandemic subsiding, less people are willing to use Instacart. So, all that averages out. But I think there's still always demand there, and it's a nice little part-time job you can always fall back on. The third option, and I think this is one that I like to emphasize because it's not just about the money, it's about passion. The third one is escape room. So I had a job at an escape room, a part-time job, for about 2.5 years, and it was one of the most fun, great jobs I've had. I've had a lot of jobs, and some of them just sucked. You get minimal wage, and it was just super hectic, super boring, super monotonous, and then there's disagreeable personality types there, and you're working manual labor for an hour, and you get minimal wage for that. So like $10, $12, whatever it is for that time. And so nonstop work for an hour for that, not worth it. But the escape room job was one of the minimal wage jobs where it was much, much better. Rather than me having to deliver dishes and take orders and do all this stuff and carry heavy trays and trays filled with dirty dishes too, for an hour, the escape room job was one where I was able to partake in other people's adventures of experiencing escape rooms for the first time. Not only did I get to play through a bunch of escape rooms for free as part of my training, but I got to sit there on my butt and then just relax and chill, and every 10, 15 minutes I would chime in with a clue that would guide them based off their specific situation. So it was a very chill job. I got to watch them from a spy camera, and I had a speakerphone, and it wasn't a perfect job, You still get paid minimum wage, and sometimes the guests are not agreeable, or they're a hassle to deal with, or they whine too much, or they ask for a clue every 2 seconds, or they start to argue, or they get difficult with you. But in general, it was still one of my favorite jobs in terms of minimum wage jobs, by far. And so it was easy work in general. Sure, there was disagreeable coworkers and stuff, but compared to some other jobs I had where you are really hustling and you're physically drained afterwards, it was very pleasant. As for someone who loves puzzle games and stuff like that, I loved it. I really did. So the next easiest income I've made comes down to certain levels of work I've done that were just low lift for me, but enough value for the other person that they were willing to pay more for it. There's a few categories of this, so I'm just going to bundle them all together as the final one. But once again, these are kind of blue moon things. So if you can find something like this that is scalable and sustainable, that's where you can make a lot of money, I believe. So for example, one of those for me was I had a stint for about 2 years where I tried out Fiverr and just tried out a bunch of different gigs, freelance gigs. And I think one of the ones that really stuck out for me were certain kind of copywriting level gigs. So copywriting is a certain skill set involving persuasive selling with your words. And sometimes I would get hired for jobs that would pay me $10, $15, not a lot, but enough. And the time investment for that would be 5 to 10 minutes because I knew what I was doing in copywriting. The purchasers would be happy with my work and they would give me a 5-star rating, and I would make basically what I would make at those minimum wage jobs in a fraction of the time. So those are some of those. but it wasn't sustainable because just the nature of the gig and so forth, and my reputation, since it was just starting off, I would get only a trickle. Now, I've done an interview on my podcast with Alex Fasulo, who has found a sustainable way, which she enjoys doing, to scale something that doesn't take her much time, but uh, creates a lot of value. And for her, that's writing ebooks and blog articles, press releases, um, and charging a lot for them, like 10,000 words for $1,000. And that's how she was able to make multiple six figures every year. So that's what she does. And, you have to find out what works for you. I found, you can't just follow them and copy them, because what if you hate writing? What if you don't want to write 10,000 words every day? I mean, even if the money's there, it can get very draining and you just might hate it. So there's also that passion part, which makes it more difficult, but something to consider. And I said I'd bundle other things together. So there's other things like that I've tried that have created these boosts of income for small moments of time. I recently started a coaching and consulting service, which really I've only had 2 students so far, but I am open to finding anyone else. So if anyone's interested in personal development or life coaching, uh, reach out to me. But that's something where I was able to make a noticeable amount. We're talking $30, $40 for maybe an hour or half an hour's worth of work. And it was fun work. I had good clients. And that's another part of it. You have to screen for students that fit your profile. I gave them all my time and attention because I loved it. I loved helping people. And I just had to talk and draw from my knowledge base and use my skills of the Socratic method, communication, and everything else to really help them along with what they wanted to do, which involved at the time public speaking, career development, growing an audience online, and all those things. And I helped them out, and they gladly paid, and it was a great exchange of values. And I couldn't believe it, but I was making more than I was hustling super hard, minimum wage. So those are some of those small things. But again, I think the key is sustainability. All of those things mentioned come in at a trickle. I couldn't get them into a consistent routine. So you can keep experimenting as I am with stuff and trying to figure out how to scale and sustain them. And at the same time, you can establish something that kind of works in a more consistent manner. So thanks for watching. See you later.